Welcome to the Real News Network. I'm Shir Hever from Germany. A small Israeli colony in the occupied West Bank has been on top of the agenda of the Israeli government for weeks. The colony of Amona will soon be evacuated, it seems, despite government efforts to keep the colony in place. Individual Palestinians own the lands upon which the colony is built, and the Israeli Supreme Court ordered its evacuation. The government now promises to compensate the colonists with about $40 million. We're joined by Gideon Levy. Gideon Levy is a prominent Israeli journalist and author of the weekly column The Twilight Zone in the Israeli paper Haaretz. He's also an editorial board member of Haaretz. He has won many prizes for journalism, and his recent book, The Punishment of Gaza, has just been published by Verso. Thank you very much for joining us, Gideon.
It's my pleasure.
So you've just published an article in the Middle East Eye. It's called How Israeli Settlements Won Their Best Ever Deal from Netanyahu. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this article. Maybe you can start by telling us in a few words, what is this colony of Amona and how many people live there?
It's about 40 families. It's all on a private stolen land. It's one of those so-called illegal outposts, even though that's an artificial name because anyone knows that all the settlements are illegal. And it's an expansion of a bigger settlement called Ofra.
Dror Etkes, an Israeli researcher of the colonies, called Ofra the Mayflower of the colony movement. Can you explain what does that mean for the colonial movement, the Israeli colonists in the West Bank, to have these colonies, and why are they more important than others?
They are more important because they are the founding fathers and mothers. They are one of the first settlements and one of the biggest and the most well-established ones, and one of the ideological ones, because there are many settlements in the West Bank which were built only for cheap housing. This is not the case of Ofra because people went there because of ideology. The story of Ofra is an interesting story because it started, like many other settlements of its kind, with a big bluff. It was about an antenna for the army, and then the army claimed that someone needs to guard the antenna, and then the guards around the antenna became a settlement of a few hundred people and then thousands of people.
Well, the colonists argue that this bluff has been done with full knowledge of the government. And in fact, they were given to believe by the government that they are welcome to take these lands and to settle them, and that they will not be evacuated.
Much more than this, the government supplied them with electricity, with water, the government paved the road there. I mean, the only blame is on the government, not on the settlers. They try as much as they can, but the government is behind all this, and therefore the government is the one to be blamed.
You mentioned that the compensation to the colonists from Amona would be $40 million. And you just said there are 40 families living there. That sums up to about $1 million per family. How is that possible when, in fact, according to research that was just published by Channel 10, the colonists don't even own their houses. They actually only rent them. And nevertheless, they will be given enough money to buy a house.
No, the $40 million will go to the whole operation of moving them to another spot on the same mountain, and each family will get much less because part of the expenses will be on really moving them and building new houses and building some public houses like a synagogue and everything they need. And still it's a scandalous sum of money. It shows again that it's all about real estate, and in this case it is also all about money. I wrote, or I said somewhere this week on Israeli TV, that if I would have been a settler, I would have been deeply ashamed for this phenomena, because all of a sudden we realize that it's not about ideology, not about beliefs, it's about money.
And what do Israelis think about this when the government is willing to spend so much money on such a small group of people? Is there protest about it?
Unfortunately, the Israelis stopped thinking long time ago, and those issues don't interest anybody and are hardly on the agenda. Israelis are mainly concerned about their next vacation and their next new car. And this is very regretful, but nobody makes the linkage between deep social problems and the money that goes for the settlers. It's somehow the Israelis remain totally indifferent and blind, and there is no one to wake them up.
This is very interesting because you also say in your article that even as the general public is mostly apathic to this, and like you say, they don't care, they don't really think about it, they don't protest, but the government is dealing with this case quite a lot. And in fact, there was a video that was released by Prime Minister Netanyahu just the other day, where he says that the government has spent dozens of hours and long discussions in attempts to save this very small colony. And you also mentioned in your article the arrangements law, this law that they try to pass in order to legitimize these illegal colonies. So why is the government spending so much effort on an issue that maybe for the most of the public they don't really care about?
Yeah, most of the public doesn't care, but that's the base of Prime Minister Netanyahu. And he wants to avoid one thing. I'm not sure he cares so much if Amona will stay on its place or not. The only thing he really cares is to avoid any kind of images in which settlers are being evacuated by force. This he doesn't want to have in his term, and therefore he was ready to pay any price just to convince them to do it without violence.
You mentioned in your article that the colonists are the most powerful lobby or the most powerful pressure group inside Israel. What is the source of their power? How can they have so much influence over the government?
They have so much influence because the truth must be said that they are the only group in Israeli society, only big group, meaningful group, who is ready to sacrifice, who is ready to struggle, who is fighting for many, many years on its course, and who is really playing on very sensitive sentiments in Israeli public opinion, and they are blackmailing government after government. It didn't start now. Ever since the 70s, they are blackmailing every government, and government after government are scared of them. And I must say, even the army is scared of them. They became the really landlords of Israel, or of at least of its occupied territories, and any politician is scared of them.
Well, thank you very much, Gideon Levy, for these comments. We will continue to follow this story, and I hope that you will also agree to join us again and continue this discussion.
With pleasure. Thank you very much.
And thank you for watching the Real News Network.